Hey guys, I'm Andrew McCorman. Welcome to Web3 TV. In today's video, I'm with Rami James from Ultra.io, and we're going to dig deeper into the most commonly asked questions people are asking in regards to blockchain gaming, in a bid to help someone new to the space understand it a lot more. But before we do, make sure you register to watch every episode of Web3 TV here, where we share inspiring stories of all things Web3, making a difference to the world. All sorted? Okay, let's go. In this episode of Web3 TV, we've done the research and we've come up with the most commonly asked questions in regards to blockchain gaming in a bid to help someone new to the space understand it a lot more. So Rami, do you mind if we ask you a few of those frequently asked questions?
Happy to help.
Okay, guys, before we start, if you haven't seen our past video that we did with Rami around what is blockchain gaming, I'm going to put a link up here for you so that you can watch it after this one. So Rami, the first question we have is, why do we need blockchain-based gaming?
So we talked about it a little bit in the previous episode, but I'll kind of reiterate. The way that gaming has been preferred to gamers over the last couple of decades has been very much about value extraction from them. It's not about providing them access or functionality. It's about making sure that they pay as much money as they possibly can. So that's either through higher games that you can't resell, through things like microtransactions, through exorbitant amounts of DLC, like those kinds of things, which frankly are about more money going out of the pockets of gamers and not about giving them a better play experience. And in the Web3 gaming space, what we've been trying to do is give more access, more functionality to end users in a way which is, of course, decentralized and is, of course, more fair to them.
Very cool. So I know this is a controversial question, but how can you use NFTs in games? So first of all, for the viewers who missed last video, we had a description of what NFTs are from Rami. But Rami, do you want to brief on what an NFT is very quickly, and then how you can use them in a game?
Sure. And NFTs are a really simple concept. When you talk about them inside the context of gaming, they're basically things that you own. So that could be an account, that could be a sword in a game, that could be the player content that you would have. I mean, like, there's all kinds of different stuff. It's stuff that you own, right? So when you're talking about blockchain-based gaming, when you talk about NFTs in games, all that you're doing is you're saying, here's stuff that you own, and you actually own it. You can actually do stuff with it. You don't need anybody's permission. It exists on an open network. Go do what you want to do. So what can you do, right? You're talking about reselling. You're talking about giving away. You're talking about specific functionality within, an NFT, which could be, if you have one NFT and you have another NFT, you'll be the only one that if you own them, you can join them into something else, which also becomes an NFT, which you can also, sell or give away or use in the game. And just to be clear, a lot of this stuff exists today in Web2 gaming, but it's very limited. It's limited by the companies that build the games. They run their own software, their own networks. They do all of the development on their own, and it's not accessible. It's not transparent. It's not fun. It's not fair. So all that we're doing with NFTs and blockchain in gaming today is we're trying to make it more fair.
So bringing the power back to the game, making it a level playing field. It's a classic analogy, but essentially that's what it is, isn't it?
That's exactly what it is. Power to the people.
Yeah. And so why do you think gamers hate the idea of NFTs in games? Because I know it is very controversial.
I think that they've been abused for like 20 years. And if you've been abused by in an industry of people that are making games, then your expectation is to continue being abused. So I think that, like, especially if you're talking about like microtransactions and things like that, if you're playing a game and your expectation is to have fun, if you have to pay like $10 to get some extra gold so you can actually play, and then another $10, and then another $10, and another $20, and another $50, and all of a sudden you're like $1,000 in, that's not fun. And I think that people look at NFTs as like kind of the continuation of that kind of mentality, where businesses can come and say, hey, you have to buy a $500 NFT to play our game. Then that's not fun. And the truth is that that's not what they should be. That's not how smart developers use them. And I think that in general, there has to be a movement away from that kind of mentality in, the developer or publisher space.
So what I'm hearing is they feel like they're being sold to all the time in order to be able to go to the next level, etc. They've got to put their hand in their wallet.
Right. Which isn't fun. That's not the play experience that I think anybody actually wants as a gamer.
Well, I remember in the past, right, when we were younger, it was about performance. If you played well and you were good at it, then you went through the levels regardless, without paying for anything.
Right. But also you only paid once, right? Like, you would pay 40, $50 for a game, and then like it was yours and you could do whatever you wanted with it, and you could play as much as you wanted. And if you got better, then you could play longer. And that's the play experience that I think that people should be promoting.
Another question for you is, what are the biggest technological roadblocks for bringing blockchain-based games to the mainstream?
So that's a pretty complicated question. The truth is that blockchain technology today is still very, very complicated. It's very hard to understand. There's a lot of concepts. I generally describe, like when you go into the blockchain space for the first time, that you're like drinking from the fire hose. Like there's so much that you have to learn. And if you just want people to play a game and like get benefits and value from playing that game, right? You can't expect them to go and learn all that stuff, because that's too much for them. And a lot of people, they're not interested in that. They don't care about that stuff. So when you want to provide an easy onboarding experience for people in blockchain-based gaming right now, for the most part, it doesn't exist. So just to be clear, you go to Ethereum and you want to play a game, and when the network is very overloaded, like you're talking like every transaction will cost you $50, and that's not fun, right? And especially if you're playing a game where there's going to be like a dozen transactions during the course of play over a couple of hours, like you're out $600. That's a lot of money. Not fun. So that's like one part of it. But like even before you get to that, like you're talking about somebody has to create an address on Ethereum or Polygon or any of these L2s. You have to somehow manage the access to that address securely, which is no joke. You have to fill it up with gas. You have to go and buy some Ethereum or Polygon or whatever, and then understand that every time that you're doing a transaction, you actually have to like cover those costs. And like there's a whole bunch of complexity there that like if you just want to play a game, like nobody cares about that stuff. So there's a bunch of technological solutions to that, which include, how do you create accounts or addresses for people in a way which is really easy for them. There's a bunch of technologies today that like do that kind of stuff. And then you have to have non-custodial access to your account afterwards, which means that like me as a business, I don't hold your keys. You as a user, you also don't hold your keys. And then there has to be a smart solution for how that's managed in a way which is secure and technologically sound, and of course has to be fair. So that's like a very big roadblock for many different companies, many different networks today. Then you're talking about basic security. So if you're talking about, you have a bunch of NFTs that you just happen to get while you're playing, and all of a sudden they're worth thousands and thousands of dollars, you become an attack vector. That means that like people are going to try and steal your stuff. And how do you make sure that like your stuff is safe? And that's like really hard. That's like a really deeply difficult security problem that companies they deal with, individuals they deal with, but like gamers, they don't care about that stuff. So like when you're talking about how do you make all of that stuff easy to use and fair and secure, you're all of a sudden looking at like a wide set of really, really difficult technological problems that some have been solved, some haven't been solved. But if you're looking to offload all of those solutions onto a developer, for example, then them having to implement all of those different solutions or integrate external solutions, that's a lot. So when we're talking about like the roadblocks today between the first set of Web3 games, which were terrible, and what we hope the future of Web3 gaming will be, then there's definitely kind of like a chasm, a technological chasm, which is currently being crossed. And I think that, if we're going to use the metaphor of a chasm, everybody's in the air right now. Some people are going to fall into the chasm and some people are going to make it to the other side. So we'll see.
So the question there becomes, when do you think the blockchain-based gaming will hit the mainstream? Is it once that chasm's been crossed? Is that once a company comes up with a one-stop shop solution?
Yep.
And do you know anyone who might be almost onto that at the moment?
So as part of my job at Ultra, I talk to a lot of developers and game developers who are both in our ecosystem and in other ecosystems. And I know that a handful of them are really, really close. So not to like push my own dog food too much, but part of the solutions to those problems we have been developing for almost 4 years at Ultra, and we know them well, and we have really good solutions to them. So that means that like, when people onboard, they do it with like an email address. They don't like even know that they're creating a blockchain account or an address. Like they don't have to worry about that stuff. Transactions on all networks should be free. Like really, like when we're talking about gas fees, or we're talking about dealing with resources on a network, that stuff needs to be abstracted away from users. And if anybody's going to pay, the company needs to be paying. Like if it's to the benefit of the developer needs to be paying. It shouldn't be on users. If we're talking about security, there are some super smart people working on really interesting solutions for non-custodial security of either your cryptographic keys or accounts or etc. So like those three things are very important. And then there's like a bunch of other stuff that, for example, if you're running at an enterprise level, a business, and you want to smartly segregate permissions, access to like who can do what within like your business structure, like that has to be built into like everything that you build, right? That has to be built into like all of those things that I talked about before, but it also has to be built into, like your NFT standard, like all of the fungible token standards and like all of that stuff. So like there's like a very wide range of technologies which have to be like built, and then they have to be integrated into SDKs so that developers can use them, easily and quickly.
So time frame for all of that to come together, what are you thinking?
Look, I know of maybe a dozen, which is a lot. It's not a small number, projects which are in very advanced stages, that they have play testers, they have frankly amazing gameplay, like the actual gameplay experience is fantastic. And that says to me that like at least a handful of really good games are going to be coming out in the next 8-12 months, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And once the larger investment space sees that there's solutions to those problems, I think that a lot more money is going to be pumped into the ecosystem, which means that a lot more development is going to be funded, and it's going to snowball. So my guess is we're going to have in the next like 8 to 12 months a handful of really good games that people will be playing and that will be relatively accessible for mainstream gamers. But I think that they're still going to be a little clunky. I still think that they're going to be a little hard to use from like an onboarding perspective. Like they'll have like 2 out of 3 things solved, and then there'll be like kind of like a little bit of clunkiness along the way. Now, if we're talking in a time frame of 12 to 36 months, I'm thinking hundreds of games, like lots and lots of games, really good ones, stuff like built on Unreal, stuff built on Unity, stuff that's going to be available on mobile platforms, stuff that's going to be on like PlayStation and Xbox. I know that those companies like Sony and Microsoft, they are interested in that stuff. And once those roadblocks are kind of like paved over, then you're going to see an explosion of interest in the space.
Wow, sounds exciting. So what are the types of games you're foreseeing arriving very soon? Are they combat games, fighting games, sport games? What are you thinking?
All of the above. So every game that somebody has built in the Web 2 space, there is somebody that is building in the Web 3 space. So I know that at Ultra, we have a bunch of exclusive games. There's 2 first-person shooters of pretty different mindsets. There is a sports game that we're building. I know that there's people out there that are building RTS games, that are building, like everything you can think of, card games, casino games, whatever you like. There'll be some version of it in the Web 3 space.
And where could a gamer access those blockchain games?
There are a bunch of different launchers that exist in the space today. One of the things that we built at Ultra was exactly that, like an equivalent to Steam, where you download it, you buy the game. Of course, the license is an NFT, so you can resell it on the market afterwards. Like, I know that we're doing that. I know that there's a bunch of different competitors that do it. I think that they'll be very interconnected in the next couple of years. Like, the games that you'll buy on one platform will be resellable on other platforms. And the reason that that will be allowed is because it's all based on NFT technology, which is really the point. Like, again, like when we're talking about NFT functionality that anybody can access, that means that, one launcher is going to have NFTs, and then another launcher will be able to integrate into that network and then sell those NFTs and then get royalties because it's sold on their platform. Like, that's the whole point.
Wow, the scope of is quite massive, isn't it? Really, when you
It's
think
huge. It's a dramatic shift in the way that people think about what can be done.
Mm. Well, I guess that's a great segue to the viewers. If they have any comments or any questions that they'd like to ask you in relation to, I guess, that what's most important to them in relation to their journey into blockchain gaming, guys, put it in the comments below if you've got a great question, and Rami, we'd be happy to answer that for the viewers over time.
Happy to.
Excellent. And you mentioned Ultra. So, guys, we're actually going to interview Rami in our next video around his journey, obviously his backstory, but also his journey into Ultra and what Ultra is all about. So stay tuned for that one, and we'll see you in the next video. Well, there it is, guys. I hope you enjoyed this Web3 TV episode. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments below. And remember, if you'd like to watch every episode of Web3 TV, visit the link below or subscribe to our channel. And remember to hit the bell icon so that we can notify you every time a new episode is released. I'm Andrew McComb, and I look forward to sharing more inspiring Web3 TV episodes, making a difference to the world. I'll see you soon.